This conference will now be recorded.
Yes, sir.
Are we ready to start? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Sir, can you take that down just for a minute?
We'll get to you after we open the meeting.
That's totally
Yep.
fine.
All right,
sure
let's
everything
have a moment of silence, please. Do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It might help if all of us turn our mics off unless we're talking. We're getting a lot of feedback. All right, next on our list is Christy Bridges. She's going to make a presentation. Let's see if we can get it back up there again.
Okay, let me hit play and let's make sure we can all see that. All right, 1 second. Click. Go.
Okay, great. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you for having us this afternoon. We're excited to be part of this meeting with you all to share some of the work that we've been doing with you all over the last year or so. In January of last year, we made some recommendations based on a brand audit, and we picked up our work with you all in October. And whoops, I got ahead of myself.
That's
all right, I apologize. So back in October, we picked up our work with you all and started off with a focus group in November. We met with the executive leadership and got your ideas about your brand, what direction you wanted to take moving forward. After we met with your focus, we had your focus group, we met with your, I apologize, we sent out a survey to your stakeholders to get their input and feedback about your brand, what they wanted Isothermal to represent, what they want your new brand to communicate. So with the research, with the information we received from the surveys and the focus group, we conducted some market research, and that led us to present to the executive team in February. Whoops, I apologize, skipping ahead.
That's all right. That was so that research. Then all of that came to me for the design process, where we started bouncing around some ideas internally for your new brand, and then we presented that to you folks on the executive committee in February, which brings us to today. So now a final presentation of our brand and some of the information that we gathered during that research.
So we conducted, again, the focus group with the executive leadership. And one of the things we asked was, what did you want your new logo to convey to others? Some things that came up were collaboration, responsive, represent diversity in both people and geography, provide service to those you serve, and together we can be more. When we asked, what are you most proud of when you think of the work that IPDC does? A common theme was that we work together and are here for one another. We also explored at that time if isothermal was a relevant term for your organization. Next, we looked at brand perception surveys to get some more feedback about what your new brand should communicate. That included service, collaboration, confidence, and expertise. Modern or innovative. When we asked how well the term isothermal fit the region, the majority of folks said that it was not a good fit. So we started to explore what some other options might be that would match your brand and match the work and represent the work that you all do.
So when we were arriving at the new brand, the new name, we took into account that collaboration, that coming together in the 4-county region, the modern and innovative approach that you take. And so where we ended up landing for the name was Foothills Regional Commission. And here is, as you can see, that this is where we landed as far as the logo. We've got the overlapping work that you guys do all coming together. It's a very innovative and modern looking style and exciting color scheme. You can see that the 4 colors of the 4 counties in the region can also be broken out to represent your different avenues of service. Here we've got 4 different colors for housing, for agency on aging, economic development, and workforce development. And when you have this new brand, you can see how it could really work across the board for collateral, for your digital ads, for just a general brand and color scheme for all of your materials. So this is where we've landed. I'm really excited about sharing this with all of you. Hopefully we love it. And I'd like to turn it back over to you guys. If you want to see, if anybody has any questions or wants to see different slides, we can go back to, we're happy to do that for you now.
Max, I have a question. What are we supposed to take away from the highly stylized S in Foothills?
The stylized S?
Yeah.
That is just how that font comes together, and the curve kind of works well with the shape of the circle in the background there. So yeah, that's actually just part of that custom font.
It was just one of the odd letters in the font bank, huh?
Yeah, but the way that I really like the way that S actually mimicked the curve from the bottom of the circle.
Sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It also draws your attention to it, makes you look at it.
Yeah,
And
made me ask a question.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well,
So
it's unique. I have never seen that S in any of the fonts that I've used anywhere. I like it. I just thought it was something special and cool that you had found, and I'm sure it is.
I liked how it interacted with the shape, that circle shape that's in the background, and it really kind of, since it's not a centered text within it, it kind of fits in that curved shape, and it really works well with the curves of the logo.
Thank you, Steve. Is there anything else we need to do right now with this?
What I'd really like to get, well, from what I've sent out to the board, I've got nothing but positive feedback on this name and logo. What I would really like is direction from the board to keep moving forward on this. I think the next step would be, from my discussions with Christy and her team, that we would then take this name, logo, and start working on our website and updating that. I've also spoken with our IPDC attorney about using this name, and he has said that we can use it either as a doing business as and keep everything like our legal paperwork for now still as IPDC, and then if we wish in the future or at any time, look into making an official legal name change across the board. Right now, my recommendation is to use this name, logo in a doing business as fashion. And I would like some input from the board on, I think it's time to move forward with updating our website, and maybe what we do next is decide on a date that we target to make this the official name and logo moving forward, and we just kind of work towards that date and start letting people know this is what we're going to be calling ourselves as of blank date.
Hey, do you want a motion to do that, and a
That would be
second and a vote?
In my opinion, I like it. So for what it's worth, so if you needed a motion, I'd be willing to make that motion.
Great. Who said that?
I'm Larry Dooley.
Larry, sorry, I couldn't tell that was you.
That's okay.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
Carol Pritchard, I'll second that motion.
Thank you very much. All signify with aye, raise your hand so we can see you.
Can we have discussion first? This is
Certainly.
Emily Sis. This is Emily Sis. Let me turn my camera back on, sorry. Representing the town of Bellwood. My only question or thought regarding the logo at this point, with the commission in the process of an executive director search, should we hold off on full implementation until the new executive director is named? Just a question.
Why would we want to do that?
To give that person a chance to provide input. And my experience comes from Cleveland Community College. When we were in the early stages of building a new building, our president left, new president came in, he had some ideas, and just this past week, groundbreaking occurred, but we started talking about that building in 2016. So it took that many years to, and I'm not wanting to belabor, I love the logo, and I think it's an awesome fit, the name and all, but my question just regards the new executive director coming in. Should we give that person an opportunity to provide input?
I guess we could. It's this board's responsibility to make this decision, though. And this board hires the executive director, so it's whatever the board pleases.
Well, this is also a continuation of a process that's been going on for many months, and the previous executive director was very supportive of this and worked through a lot of the stuff with the folks who have proposed it. And I would hope that anybody we hire as executive director would have the good sense to love our logo.
Okay. Any more discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we want to move forward?
I call the question, Mr. Chairman.
All right, let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Town of Kingstown doesn't have a camera, but I vote yes.
Okay, anybody opposed? Okay, the ayes carry then. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, this is Bob. Do we want to give Steve a date for implementation?
I would assume they would go ahead and move forward at whatever pace they can to get things going. Steve, is that the way you want to go?
Sure. What I can do is I can work with Christy and Derek and their group of folks who work with us on the website to get a proposed date and get that back to you all shortly.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on this? All right, if we can take that down, we'll move on to the landlord recruiting consultant, Elizabeth Champion, I mean.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you all. I'll be in touch.
All right,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Hi, so can you see my screen? Well, okay, good. So,
Yes.
Hi, so I'm Elizabeth with Champion Investments, and we had the opportunity to present this information to the executive board, but also to some of the team members there at Section 8 at Isothermal Planning Development, and they asked us to present this to you as well. So I'm going to go through a very similar presentation that we created. We were tasked, it began in January, to recruit landlords and develop some tools that would come beside the Section 8 program through Isothermal Planning Development Commission. And one of the things, we're very excited to have this opportunity. We have heard great results, great feedback. And as we're going through this presentation, we're very aware that you are creating a new name and logo. So anything that you see in here, please feel free to ask me about. but also just keep in the back of your mind, it can be changed. So when this was developed, some of the tools that you'll see that were developed can easily be changed out with new logos and new names. So the next is we looked at some responses to working with landlords. So when we met with about, as of today, it's about 55 different current landlords, current owners is the direction that we're going with that we've met with. And we just did just a quick survey with them just to kind of gauge what it looked like with the goal of providing quality economical housing and just this pathway to develop a relationship. And for the most part, the responses, and you can see on this pie graph, about 80, almost 85% of the landlords or the owners, as we're referring to them, just really would like to hear more information. They just wanted to learn more. So this could be individuals who have participated, meaning they have a home that they are contracted with Section 8. However, maybe they haven't done a new one in 10 years, or maybe they've never participated. So for the most part, we're seeing 85% would like to learn more. 7.7% is equivalent with the no and the absolutely yes. The no's mainly were coming into pass if the land was being sold, the property was gonna be put on the market in the next few months. So that is generally what we were seeing. You'll notice here, we were trying to maximize the number of available affordable homes. And so as we looked at this, we were trying to keep this number under about 10%. So our goal is to bring in as many landlords as possible, as many owners of property. And at the same time, we didn't want just one owner to dominate this as we were looking to recruit and to retain new property owners. So our target audience is we're going out and meeting with agents, meeting real estate agents. Maybe we're working with new landlords or owners. We're working with the current landlords and owners that you're currently contracted with. Our goal is to definitely have retention, meaning we want to retain the landlords that we currently have and see about tagging into more properties. I met with an owner just yesterday. He has 3 properties on the program currently, but he has about close to 100 properties overall that him and his family own. So of that portfolio, we would like to see about looking at new properties. And he has 2 that are coming open. So that's just one example of working with the current owners and having that retention. We have a meeting scheduled actually tomorrow to recruit a new landlord. And what that recruitment can look like is simply a phone conversation and answering any questions they may have. It also looks like going out to the properties with them, looking at them, answering any questions they might have in regards to passing, maybe an inspection. So this is one of our main focuses, is getting the word out there and meeting with people who can open those avenues to kind of ease that search process and removing barriers. And just identifying owners or landlords who might be willing to work within the program. During that research, we found 3 key components. About 7% of the individuals were novice. And what we mean by that was they really just didn't know much about the program. Maybe they've never used the program before. Maybe they inherited the property and it was already on the program. And another thing that we found, discussion, some of the owners just wanted to discuss maybe a problem that they've had in the past, but yes, absolutely, they wanted to work with the program. Another one was infrastructure. This was a key component we found throughout. Even within the discussion, let's say we met with an owner, they weren't working with Section 8, the question could continue on as to, hey, you know, why aren't you currently working with the program? What have you seen work well? And during that discussion, what we found was just the infrastructure, meaning maybe they didn't understand how the program truly worked from beginning to end, how to handle maybe a concern that they had. So coming beside owners and landlords and helping them understand what that next step could look like. And with that, what we're going to see here are our goals and objectives. And yes, there's a lot of information on this slide, but basically what I would love for you to take away from this is simply the fact that we're developing tools. So while we had these conversations, one of our notated agreement items are to provide and implement strategies to become beside these landlords and owners. One of those tools, and specifically we just wrapped up, is the new landlord packet. That packet is going to house information on how to get your property from beginning to end through the process with Section 8. Also a brochure we did, and we're going to look at that in just a moment. We developed a couple of different surveys and frequently asked questions. And just as you were already discussing, implementing new, not necessarily strategies, but you're implementing some great new products as far as your name, your logo, and you're putting that on your website. So as that's being discussed and developed, this is a perfect time to create some tabs for the owners so that they can go directly to a brochure, or go directly to some resources and tools. Most of the owners we're speaking with, they have a second job. So they're looking at their information about rentals after work, after hours, when no one's in the office to maybe answer those questions. Another thing that we've created is the foundation for an advisory panel that will offer a great resource for that platform of discussion. One of those needs that we saw was just a place to have a discussion and ask questions. One of the packets on how to become a landlord, we would like to see that be put online. It's a great resource that's been developed. And then also posting of homes with specific information. I worked with a couple of team members and several of them yesterday. Steve was a huge help in that as well, coming beside these owners and private landlords, and how can they put that information out there as far as the rental properties. Because again, we want to ease that search process and remove any barriers for these individuals to get a home. So what that means for the client implication is ensuring that there's education on fair housing found within that owner packet, having information available 24/7 online, a productive platform for discussion, concerns, and questions, and defining and directing that infrastructure, which while we are here, we're definitely a part of answering any of those questions, be it a text message, an email, going again out to the property and looking at it with them. And this is one of the examples we wanted to show. These are two different brochures, and one would be better used digitally, like if we're going to email out the owners and email them updated information. Another one could be used more as a printout for when we do the summit or the landlord meetings, to hand them and just have some great information on hand. These are easily changeable. What we noticed was relationship and responsibilities. So what does the relationship and responsibility look like? What can that have, what we were seeing is a little bit of confusion in whose responsibility was what. And what was the family to do? What was Isothermal's role in this? And what were the owner's role? And this is also outlined not only in the brochure, but also the owner packet. And then this is the survey for landlords. One is designed to email out. We would definitely receive more of a quantitative result from that, meaning an individual could email us back just basic information on where they live, where their county of properties are, that portfolio, how many properties are within the portfolio. The other one is designed to hand to someone, maybe at a summit that we are hoping to do in the next 12 months. But I would say right now we're doing more of a qualitative survey, meaning when we meet with the landlords, we're speaking to them, we're allowing them an opportunity for that discussion, and we're getting some great information out of those meetings. So when we're looking at this, our focus has been 3 specific items thus far. We want to increase the availability of homes, and we're doing that again through building those relationships and developing tools for recruitment and retention. The second one I'm really excited about. So this one is really neat because it ties into your 5-year plan. When reading over your 5-year plan, we noticed that you wanted to work and come alongside to assist those at risk who are homeless. And the 5-year plan was developed so nicely we were able to see how you partner with and collaborate with other local resources who are already in place. And it's an excellent opportunity for our region as a whole. And so there's a new program out there that we just recently had the opportunity to kind of team up with. And Cleveland County landed the first one where we were able to take an individual who had been homeless for 8 years and put him in a home. And he was able to get off the streets. We were able to partner with another organization and bring them in. Of course, Isothermal Planning Development Commission, y'all were a huge help in that, working with those team members to get this individual who had been homeless for about 8 years and get him into a home. The program itself, we're working with several other individuals on that. And so item 2 is really exciting to see, because we're able to work with those people who don't have a home and bring them into one. And then the third item is increasing housing choices and standards. By doing that, we're creating some tools. The database, of course, we're excited about that because it's going to be a tool that Isothermal can use to come in and say, here's my landlord, here are the homes that they currently have under them, and to help them with that paperwork. Some of the key information that they need will be found there, such as the utilities, the water, if there's trash collection, and that's gonna be just a phenomenal resource for those team members there. And then posting homes and goals for standards of those homes. We were working on that just this week. So current homes that are available where owners are willing to participate and put that home and list it with their information. And we're going to try to post those. The goal is online. And then our proposed deliverables, as we wrap this up and we're wrapping up our first phase, all 4 of these deliverables have already been touched. We've already started and outlined, so it says a report of research for that database. We've started it. We have already read through all the homes, all the owners, we've uploaded them, and we are currently pairing those up and updating that information to ensure that we have current mailing addresses, emails, phone numbers, and then digging in a little deeper with that. Again, we're looking to have, for the RFTA, I believe is the acronym, paperwork in one spot to find it. The report for meeting with landlords, that's found also within the electronic list. So those are your leads. We had stated that we would agree to get 250 leads. We've actually surpassed that and have over 600. These leads are actually leads of owners who are willing to, as their homes come available, market them and allow Section 8 vouchers to be applied towards them. And so we're going to continue to try to develop those relationships there and recruit additional leads for you. And they are already in a database. The advisory panel foundation has already been developed. The training materials in HUD, we've already typed that up and put it together. It's the landlord packet. We've already built out and completed the survey and the brochure. So all of those deliverables were done ahead of time because we've been able to work directly with the team there at Isothermal, and they've been great. So as we summarize and wrap this up, our timeline, and we're really excited to see how many owners we've worked with, and this project conception and initiation and moving forward to additional planning and development. But one thing I wanted to say here as we wrap up, and we're generating both leads and tools, is basically there are several ways to look at how we can step into this project. And researching high performing programs around the nation and looking at what those programs are doing and implementing, we've gotten great support from both the executive committee or the executive board and the team there at Isothermal, and just this excitement to create a legacy that's going to push past, so that in 5-10 years you already have all of this in place, and therefore it's done, it's created. And so you should be able to take what you've already done and move on and move past that and continue to build new relationships and recruit new landlords. I think maybe many of you saw what was happening in a county right outside where they were recruiting landlords, which was great. Their goal was to bring in 5 to 10 new landlords and work with about 25 new families. Right now, y'all are working with almost 1,200 families, which is so exciting to see. The goal is to get over 1,400, and we're working towards that. But that's a phenomenal goal to have. So as we look at the summarizing timeline, I hope that you see what we've already accomplished and what we're moving towards and how we are, we're staying on track, and I hope to see us get additional people on board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Steve, should we work with Elizabeth and Christy to try to integrate our new logo into this literature some way? I don't know if it's an extra cost or not, but if we could show somewhere we're transitioning from the old logo to the new logo.
On my end, it shouldn't cost me anything to change those out. As we develop these, I set them up in such a way, and our team came beside me so that we can change it out as needed. So as long as I have that image and wording, whenever you have those, we can implement it.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Tell me a little bit about Elizabeth and Champion Investments. I'm kind of, I'm not sure I know who that. Everything's great, sounds great. Maybe I missed out on some meetings.
No, I'm so sorry. I should have introduced myself. So I've had the opportunity to meet and work so closely with the team at Isothermal. And am I still sharing my screen? Is that, I can unshare that. Okay.
Yes, you're still sharing.
Okay. So who we are a management company out of Cleveland County, where we have properties that we manage and oversee and specialize in property management. So we work beside other owners and manage their properties, but we also work hand in hand with, we have about 100 contracts that we oversee here through Section 8 in their program. So we've come beside them. It was about a year ago, I say, that they sent out the literature on this request, and we submitted our information, submitted who we are, who our firm is, what our ideas were, and then we began the process probably about a year ago. We are in Cleveland County. We go out to Rutherford, Polk, and McDowell, and we have a firm license here as an agent, but then we also have our own individual license within real estate, but our focus is property management and rental properties.
Steve Lockett, you can help me a little bit with this, but in several of our meetings in the past with our housing, we were missing out on, I believe, around $500,000 worth of business revenue, how we call it. We were looking at a way to try to bring forth more housing. We talked about and agreed and signed a contract with Champion for them to do that. They have some, I guess, goals to meet throughout the process in order to bring us up. And we were going to spend, I think, around $200,000 to make $500,000, if I'm not too far off there.
Dad can back me up on those dollar figures, but as many of you know, we have our Section 8 department, which has, for the last several years, not hit the benchmarks that we need in terms of finding available residences for our Section 8 voucher program folks to find places to stay. And that impacts our bottom line, not being able to hit those requirements. So we reached out and have an agreement with Elizabeth and her team to help us expand our scope and our outreach to those landlords so that we can find those locations and those properties that our Section 8 voucher users can utilize, which will then allow us to further access the available HUD money that's available to us, and hopefully even more. So that was the purpose of engaging with Elizabeth and her group. And she's been great to work with. And I think we are starting to really see some dividends on that. And we're hoping to see more. And she and her team have been ahead of the curve and ahead of schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions about that? Is that explained?
Mr.
Go ahead,
Chairman,
Rick. Yes, sir.
I want to ask a question if I can. It sort of tags on to your comment about integrating with the materials that we've already got that were shown here. There were an awful lot of good materials in the pre-meeting packet for this meeting that say isothermal, things like the isothermal home, that sort of thing. Is that stuff going to be changed to Foothill? I realize it's tangential, but I want to make sure that we're going to follow through on all the things that are current. And,
yes, we'll make sure that we stay consistent across all our messaging.
Rick Howell, you had a question?
Yes, sir. Want to ask a question from a substance standpoint on expanding the Section 8 program to additional product. So do we have a sense, I know that Cleveland County is significantly represented in terms of numbers across the region. I think a large number of Section 8 vouchers are in Cleveland County. So do we have a sense of where the market is? And I'm asking that question because if we're trying to expand the Section 8 housing vouchers, or at least the properties that are available for that, do we have a sense where the market for those, where the demand is, you know, in terms of what McDowell County's demand is, and Rutherford and Polk and Cleveland, so that we're not getting, you know, so that we're sort of representing the market. So if there are people in McDowell County that are in need of a Section 8 voucher, are we paying attention to that market?
Yes, we definitely have demand for these vouchers. I know that we're looking at reopening the wait list in early April. And I can tell you the last time that we opened that wait list, I think it might have been November of 2019, it was full of how many, 1,500?
Yeah, in like 12 hours.
Yeah, within like 12 hours, we filled up 1,500 spots as in people who were interested in the voucher program. So the demand is definitely there across our region.
So just one follow-up, Steve. I don't want to belabor this, Fred. I apologize. Do we have a system in place that ensures fairness within the 4 counties in terms of availability of vouchers?
What do you mean by fairness?
Well, and obviously, if you open up and you have 1,500 people who are waiting on vouchers, are we focusing? If McDowell County has a deficit, are we working to try to make sure we work with McDowell County landlords and Rutherford County landlords and Cleveland County landlords to try to make sure the product's available where the people are?
Yes, definitely. I know that when we open up that wait list and we bring people on, those people are evaluated, of course, where they are, their need, the reason they have that need. And of course, part of the reason we brought Elizabeth and her team on board through this contract was to expand that outreach to all counties, all 4 counties. Be like, we do need more landlords, more locations. And the great thing about working with Elizabeth is she has these connections, and it allows our staff to trust her to do a lot of that outreach so that we can look at that demand side and really kind of get a good sense of who needs it and where they need it. And so it's been a really good synergy with this agreement.
And I just say this, and I'll be quiet, Steve, but I think moving forward, that the board probably does need to have some reporting at some point in time about those vouchers and where they are and landlord, property availability, so we have a better sense of where those vouchers are being utilized from the regional standpoint, so that we've got some metric that's helping us track that.
Sure. Do you want me to put something together for the next board meeting in June? Or even,
I mean, I think that would be great. I just think moving forward, I'd like to make sure that the board's aware of how those vouchers are spread around.
And I would, if I can tap into that really quick, Steve's team there has supplied us with some great materials as far as who your current landlords are, or we're trying to refer to them as owners. So who those current owners are today, where owners that you've worked with in the past who are no longer participating in the program. So I can quickly say how many are in Cleveland, Rutherford, McDowell, and Polk. I can tell you based on data that I am looking at today, so that might be a little stagnant. You know, once I receive this information, we'll update it quarterly. So by June, I'm more than happy to come beside Steve, but he really has already supplied that. We've already got those numbers and kind of looking at what those percentages look like by county. When we're reaching out to owners to see what availability is and where those vouchers can be used, I will say Isothermal across the board is trying to get in the home. They're already doing the work. Those guys are already out there meeting. If they have a voucher in place, the counselors are on it. They're already getting them approved as quickly as they can, working with them, coming beside them. Some of the tools that we're creating is to help assist that and alleviate what we would call that that barrier, right? So if you have someone who lives in, say, McDowell, do they have access to go travel and look at every single property out there? You know, that takes a car, that takes gas. What if you're at work? What about your kids? So alleviating those barriers are what the team and I are working on. One of the things that we started implementing this past month that we will go live in the next couple of weeks is on the website having a listing of all available properties. Where the isothermal offices within the county had it before, right? So you could go into the office and see any homes in that county that were currently available due to COVID. You can't really do that. So if we have it online, that alleviates that barrier. So no one's having to spin their wheels visiting 10 different offices to go look at 10, 20 different properties where the counselors have already approved them. So if you put yourself in their shoes, it's how many years to get a voucher, right? It takes 2-3 years just to get into the program. And you meet with and supply all the information with the counselor, only to be met with the fact that there's no inventory. So the counselors have done all of their work. The families who are so excited to finally have this opportunity have done it, but there's no inventory. So a lot of times that's what we're encountering. So we're just trying to alleviate those barriers and say, here's a home. Maybe you didn't know about it because this is a private owner who doesn't have the resources that someone under a management firm's umbrella has, right? So if you're with a management firm, most of the time, like for example, our office, just because I know it, right? We syndicate with about 100 different websites because of our software. It shoots it out. You're gonna see it on Facebook, rent.com, Zillow. It's gonna be out there in a matter of seconds. But if you're a private owner, you don't have access to that, and that is okay. But now that we are coming beside them and trying to offer them one more step to share that home. So that's one of the tools that we're excited about. But then also coming beside those owners. So let's say McDowell, which I can look and see how many at the end of 2020, how many homes were on the program in different counties. We're looking at that. But what does that inventory look like today that's available, and how do you get those owners from beginning to end through that process? So what the team is doing is coming in beside them to develop those tools, and here's a resource of all that information. But when you only have 5 counselors or maybe 10 and your staff is working as hard as they can to represent those families, but then you have owners on this side and you're working with almost 350 different owners, how do you tag into them? So what we're doing is alleviating those steps by having that tangible information available whenever possible, by having it online. Does that help at all?
Yeah, yes, I mean, that makes perfect sense, and it's gratifying to know, because I guess my whole point was, if I live in, just say McDowell County, and there's just no homes available there, but I still really need that voucher, you know, I don't want to have to move to Rutherford for my job's in Marion. So people who qualify for these vouchers struggle enough day to day just to live. And so I think that was my big concern, is making sure that we were paying attention from a regional standpoint, which is what we should do. Thank you.
So send those owners our way and we'll walk them through that process in McDowell. So go ahead and just put a list together of owners and we're more than happy to meet with them. But that is a struggle. And you're right. We do not want families to have to move. We just need the properties available. And we have willing owners. And they're excited. They 100%, I have not met with one owner who does not appreciate and respect what is being done there at this office. They understand. And they're excited to help and be part of that solution. It's just availability of current homes and ensuring maybe they do want to work with them, but right now with COVID, maybe the families are just trying to work with those families to get them through COVID. But the owner I'm meeting with tomorrow is a great example. 25 units, they're vacant, they're homes, they just need to be remodeled and brought up to date. It's going to take a little bit longer in 2021 because supplies are a little bit lower, but it will happen. So the time and money that's being invested today, you should be able to reap those benefits. And the way that this program has been set up, and we've worked with isothermal planning development, and how we've worked with them is the longevity of it. Yeah, it might not happen in 4 weeks, but the goal is in 4 years, you already have it done and completed and you don't have to redo it. You're creating a legacy is the best way I know how to put it for future years to come. But we're already seeing those benefits. We're already seeing vouchers being filled out. I signed a contract just 2 days ago. A family's in a home. It was a new owner that's never worked with this program before. Both sides were thrilled. The family's in and they have a home for them and their 3 kids, and the mom can go back to school. I would love to have some of those stories that we can share of families where their lives have changed because of what you're doing and the time you're investing into this. But to circle back to Mr. Howe, yes, we would like to see it equal across, but it really has to do with availability of inventory.
Sure, I completely understand.
Quick question about availability of inventory. I know that here in Rutherford County, our housing stock is extremely old, elderly. We have old housing stock and not a whole lot of new housing stock going in. Have you been able to develop any relationships or create any materials to help get maybe people to develop new housing stock specifically for this level of income individuals or for the people who would use Section 8 housing vouchers? Has that been a part of this at all? I'm just curious about that because I know that our housing stock is just so old and pitiful.
So I hear what you're saying. That's a great question, Stephanie, and I'm so glad that you asked that question. It's a great question. So yes, I met this week with someone from Rutherford. He has about 100 properties. It's him and his family. They've done it for generations, right? So that means if he's done it for generations, these homes are probably generational homes, meaning they were probably mill homes, which is okay, right? We just want to make sure that they're safe and habitable, but beyond that, we want, even though HUD standards may be pretty low, our team has an expectation that these homes are brought beyond standard. But yes, so he has a couple of homes available now that are 1 bedroom, which are ideal. Those are really hard to find. The question he had was, do you have anybody interested? Yes. So that's the important connection of getting owners with available inventory connected with voucher holders when they're private owners, meaning they don't have that resource they would normally have under a property manager. So, and that's fine, because that's what we want. We want this to be long lasting, right? We want to develop something that is going to be sustainable for years to come. So to answer your question, what we are creating are tools that guide you through that process and tools that continue to develop that relationship. One of those tools, again, is the owner packet. It's about 37 different pages of information and websites. But also we're creating that landlord advisory panel. That is something that Steve's team put together that they said, hey, we really need a platform for healthy discussion. And so with that, we developed what that could look like and bringing it together. And this goes back to answer Mr. Howe's question. We would represent every county. So McDowell County, yes, it would be represented. Polk County, Rutherford, Cleveland, all of those counties would have somebody to represent them so that those owners would have somebody who is also an owner that they could have these discussions so that you don't always need me. that we're building something moving forward that will sustain itself. Now, to circle back around to your question, if you have any developers that want to go out and develop, you send them my way, and we are more than happy to meet with them.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There's a lot of work been put into this. It's for a reason to provide housing. So Steve's team is working on that. And if you have any questions, get back to Steve. He can answer all of them.
I just have one question briefly, and this is Janet Gerald in Kingstown. See, a lot of focus is put on getting new homeowners, new landlords and whatever, and that's great. But what are we doing for the families that move in? We have all these guidelines for the landlords, but what recourses do we have for the families that move in that may be having problems with the landlords? I mean, you created pamphlets for the landowners, the landlords, but what about for the families?
Steve, you want to answer that?
Yeah, Dad, go ahead.
So I can weigh in a little bit just because I've been involved in both housing and with Elizabeth's contract some, but basically what the work Elizabeth is doing is a double-edged sword. So she's helping IPDC by getting more landlords on the program, which in return gets more tenants on the program. So in essence, what she's doing is helping the families, because if we do not have more available units, then our waiting list is stagnant. It can't go anywhere until somebody drops off the program. So by her adding these landlords who are willing to add multiple units of theirs, then we are opening up spaces for people who are in need of Section 8 housing. Obviously, we can't just open up our waiting list and leave it open for any extended period of time, or we'll get a massive number of people sign up and then they sit stagnant, and it may take us 2 years to even start reaching out to some of them because it can be such a huge list. And when that becomes a problem, then you've got people with false hope. So that's what we try to avoid doing. But Elizabeth this contract is designed not only to help IPDC, but it's also increasing the stock that we have available to put people into. On the other side, one of the things that our housing counselors are actively doing is anytime anyone calls needing housing assistance, they say, well, where do you live now? And they try to see if the option to rent in place or lease in place is available. And the way that works is if I'm renting an apartment from John Smith down the road here and I'm interested in Section 8 housing, and then they say, well, can you lease in place? Well, I reach out to John and he says, sure, I'd be glad to accept Section 8. And then I can receive the voucher and not ever have to move. So that's the most ideal for tenants. I hope that answers your questions. If not, Elizabeth can probably expound more than me.
And Janet, if you're wondering about if folks who are in Section 8 housing have issues with their landlords, our staff here works with people on those issues as well. And just as Elizabeth mentioned that we're setting up a landlord advisory panel, we also have a resident advisory panel that we are trying to check in with more often and engage with more frequently to address any of those issues from a resident's standpoint as well. So we do take that just as seriously as reaching out to landlords.
Yeah, and one other thing that's probably important to note is if you ask any of the counselors or staff in our housing department, they will all tell you that, and Elizabeth would probably shake her head yes at this, they will all tell you that they work for the tenant. So their job is to fight for the tenants. They're going to take up for the tenants and the housing customers before they take up for any of the landlords.
Great, thank you for that response.
Thank you, everybody.
Did we miss anything?
All right, we're ready to move on.
Yes,
Sarah, I think Sarah's up next. Housing Task Force report.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Let me get this. Here we go. Okay. So over the past year, I'm sure Scott and Steve have mentioned that we have an isothermal housing task force, And I know some of you are a part of the task force, but I'm really happy to say that we have completed our report for the past year that we started in March of 2020. So that is completed, and I'm happy to give a quick overview of the report and a status of where we are right now. So the members of the Housing Task Force, they're all throughout the region. A lot of them are government members, elected officials, and staff. I think we had representatives from almost every town on the task force, which was really great. And the idea of the task force, again, it came from the first annual Isothermal Housing Summit in 2019, when we had gathered everyone together in person and we talked about what the issues were in the region and what we could do to solve those issues. And one of the first things that came out as a potential solution was to create a task force to discuss in greater depth and to create some solution. So the task force was born, and we have created a document that has best practices and some solutions and some educational materials for government officials and members who may not know where to start on housing. Housing is a huge issue. It's very complex. So we spent the past year kind of breaking that down with help from presenters and from insiders into the field, and see how we as a region and we as government members can help and solve the issue for each of our communities. So at the end, towards the middle, we realized how difficult housing is and how you can't really, there's no silver bullet to solve these issues. So we've created 3 priorities for housing for our region over the next couple of years, what we can focus on and what we can make a priority for IPDC and for our members. So it's kind of a 3-legged stool here when you think about it. We want to have a focus on affordable housing. Like we mentioned before with Elizabeth and Champions, our Section 8 needs a lot of help, and we need to focus on the most at risk and the most needy population, which is affordable housing in our region. And then we also are going to talk about the HUD Home Consortium. That's a big focus for IPDC in the next few years and for the region. Steve will go into more depth in that a little bit, but that's another portion of our priority. And then our 3rd priority is our private developer focus group. Throughout our process, we realized that we're missing a big facet of the conversation when we talk about housing, and that's developers. Developers are a whole new group that is separate from government, it's separate from nonprofits, and we don't really get to interact with them a lot, particularly now with COVID and how the separation is. You can't just kind of walk in anyone's office and have a casual conversation. So we're going to do more of a focus on developers and get a focus group there and create some connections between government and private developers to see what they need and what we need and how we can bridge that gap. So that's our 3 priorities. And within those priorities, we have more steps. So the first one, our focus on housing affordability. So affordable housing, this is defined by HUD. It's generally defined as housing which the occupant is paying more than 30% of their gross income, no more than 30% of their gross income for housing costs, including utilities. So this is a big priority, especially now when we talk about how people are unemployed and how housing is the most critical thing in our hierarchy of needs. If you don't have housing, how can you do anything else, really? So again, from our housing summit from 2019, the focus was, there was a main focus on housing affordability for the region. Stephanie mentioned it, where we really have low quality stock in our region, and we need to create that stock and create housing that fulfills these needs for people who live here. So what our group and what our summit and our task force has set as a priority for us is to create housing for low-income individuals and their families. Seniors are a big group that we need to focus on. I think McDowell County has a very large aging population, so we need to create housing that fits those unique needs for seniors. And then for workforce, we look at Polk County. Polk County is doing a workforce affordable housing complex. And that's great, and we need to just do more of that in our region to attract those jobs and those workers and to bridge that gap there too. And our focus really aligns really well with the state's housing consolidated plan. North Carolina's Housing Finance Agency has found that the most dominant issue in the state is similar to our region too. It's cost burdening. So basically housing affordability is that it's too expensive to have housing for state itself, so we need to focus on that. So our goals align well with the state, which helps in a lot of ways. So again, we discussed what are the barriers for affordable housing in our region. We don't have enough available land or properties around the region, particularly properties that are of quality and that are not too old or too damaged or have issues that are beyond the scope of a lot of people to repair. Cost is going up, and it's gone up over the past year exponentially. I just saw that UNC, they're putting out a letter trying to figure out why lumber is going up so high. Lumber is incredibly expensive right now. It's just, and building is really expensive, so that the cost of building translates into the cost of the actual property. So then that makes that housing not affordable. So that's another issue for affordable housing in our region too. And then the issues with developers, like I mentioned, we're going to create a focus group to try to figure out those issues, whether it be zoning, sewer lines, transportation, any of those. We're going to try to figure out what those issues are for our region. And then there's also this NIMBYism, we call not in my backyard, where people have this view of Section 8 that may not be correct, and it's kind of biased in a lot of ways. And like Elizabeth has mentioned with Champion, we're trying to solve those issues and create more opportunities for Section 8 and change that vision that people have of it. So for our housing task force, we decided there are 6 long-term goals for housing affordability for our region. And within the housing task force document, you can read more on each of these priorities, and you can see where we discussed it as a group and what the opportunities are for our regions, like suggested ideas and plans that we can do and to make these goals happen. So the first one is commit to housing as a priority. We're kind of doing that now as we have more discussions about housing, and we bring that to our top level of priorities for the region and make it more urgent. Also, we need to preserve the housing we have. The ones that we do have, if it's not quality, we need to make it quality. We need to go in and repair it. We need to preserve those homes. So that's our second priority. Our third was to build more housing. Again, we don't have enough, so we need to do more housing of all different types and sizes and locations throughout the region to help stabilize those prices and meet demand. Demand is huge right now. The housing market is incredibly hot right now, so we just need to jump on that and make that a priority to build this housing for the people that need it and the people that want to come to our region. And then we also need to make home stability a priority. We need to assist those residents who are at risk of losing their homes because the rent is growing, or they're the eviction or heavy cost burdens, by creating programs and plans that assist these at-risk populations. And then we also need to link these homes and services. This is what we call aging in place. There's unique needs that people have when they live in homes, so we need to make the services, bring them to them, or make the homes accessible for people who have needs for like handicap ramps or any kind of disabled people to live these more stable lives and live where they want to live. And then we need to support and strengthen home ownership. We need to create these sustainable home ownership programs with a focus on overcoming barriers for at-risk households. So we need to make home ownership a priority in our region to let people live here and to enjoy living here and to stay here. When you own a home, you're more likely to stay in a region and you're less likely to leave. So we need to create more sustainable programs and make an assistance for people who want to purchase homes. And then our second overarching goal that we are focusing on is the Home Consortium. So what is HOME? HOME is a HUD program that is providing decent affordable housing to low-income households. It creates new opportunities and extends the capacity of nonprofits and governments to have more funding and to create more leverage with private sectors. So it's really just an opportunity for our region to qualify for funding and money that we would not normally qualify for when we go individually or if we go just as the COG. So through HOME, we can access a significant amount of funding that can be used for huge number of things for our region. We can use this funding for new construction, for rehabbing homes, like I mentioned, do down payment assistance for the priority to help homeownership. We can do rental assistance, site improvements, really just a huge host of things. And HOME is a really successful program that's used all across the nation. Asheville has a HOMES consortium, the Southwestern Commission, they have just started one. So it's been a success in our state, and there's really a lot of examples that we can follow upon and that we can follow their lead. So everyone in our housing task force was very excited about the HOME consortium idea. And this is our roadmap to the HOME consortium. So we are in step number 1 over here. We've begun the process of telling HUD that we're going to apply and that we have talked to a lot of our members, our housing task force, and we've gotten some support. So we are on this little road and we're hoping to go for state certification, and then we'll do our agreement and so forth, our legal opinion, and then becoming designated as a home, and then we will be able to execute that funding that we will receive. So Steve will go into more explanation of this later too, if you have any questions about it specifically. And this is my third stool of my leg of my stool for the private developer focus group. So like I said in our meetings, this was our last in-person meeting before COVID. We realized that there's a lot of missing information that we have in our report. Our report is really focused towards government and what government can do and how you can focus on that as a certain group. But we don't have a lot of information from private developers and what they need and what they're seeing in the industry. So in one of our first meetings, we had this panel of like a contractor and real estate agent and people in the mortgage industry and the banking industry who helped us really break down the region and how they're seeing the actual market, which is different from the way we see it from our viewpoint. So that was a really great meeting, and the task force said that they wanted to continue doing this kind of information. So what we're going to do with one of our task force co-chairs, Craig Hilton, he's going to lead a private developer focus group to get these developers in a room together or on Zoom and talk about what we're missing and what we can do as a region and as different members to help make their life, help attract them to the region and help them build those houses that we so desperately need. So that's our 3 stages of the report. And the report is done and it's completed. We have a lot of great information in there, and it's completely open for anyone to see and to read. And that is my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions and talk about it in any greater depth. It's been a really great experience working with the Housing Task Force and everyone for the past year. So,
Sarah, if we wanted to look at the report, where could we find it?
Sure, yeah, it's going to be on the website. I'm going to put it up there after this meeting. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up that it was coming first.
Can our weatherization program help with some of the substandard housing to help do some things with them to improve them?
Well, right now the weatherization program that was at IBDC is now up in Asheville. You know, but the Home Consortium program could either look at that or look at assisting some of our local nonprofits in regaining the ability to do more weatherization in the area, like the Rutherford Housing Coalition or others.
Okay, thank you. All right, we need to move into the meeting part of our business meeting. I'd like for a request approval of the board minutes that were attached.
This is Bob, so moved.
Thank you, Bob. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Anybody opposed? Second was Max, I think.
Sir, yes, sir.
If you didn't get that.
Yeah.
All right, Thad, quarterly financials.
Sarah, could you give me control? I'll pull up the financials on my screen.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, you should be good, Steve.
Great, thank you.
All right. So first thing right off the bat, there's a glaring error right in the middle of the page. It says expenditures to 2/10/21. That should say expenditures to 3/16/21. That was a failure on my part to update that, so I apologize. When you look at that page, target percentage, where we should be after 8 months should be somewhere around 67%. Everywhere is well under that, except for ARC LDD. It's at 78%, and the reason for that is we use 100% of the LDD funds, and then we move on to the CWP funds to expend those. So that's the reason CWP is at 0, LDD is at 78%. Other than that, nothing at all to be alarmed about on any of this. And then if you'll go over to the cash graph, you'll notice the light blue line is us. We are a little lower than we have been the past several years, and I think we can attribute the majority of that to the housing issues that we've been having. So Elizabeth's contract, as we talked about earlier, should fix this because it's going to create that extra admin revenue for us that'll bump us back up. Still nowhere in any kind of danger. I mean, around $1 million right now on hand. So everything looks good there. You will probably see in the next couple of months a tremendous jump in working cash balance, and that's going to be because of the new stimulus package that was passed. There are astronomical amounts of money for aging, and I'm assuming the housing is probably getting those same amounts. So we'll probably see working cash jump tremendously.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Steve?
Yeah, Sarah, how do I stop sharing?
There should be a little box on your screen, and there's a little green button, stop sharing.
Oh, I don't want to leave the meeting.
Yeah, I do that every time almost.
Sorry, y'all, I'm not used to go to meetings like some of the other ones.
What is that? People can see your screen.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, home consortium. So as Sarah discussed in our housing task force, this task force has been great. Sarah's done a really great job shepherding this forward. And before I jump into home consortium, I would like to ask for, or you don't have to say so right now, but we are looking for some more volunteers to join that task force, especially along those 3 legs that Sarah described: the home consortium, looking at affordable housing, and engaging with our developers. Craig Hilton, one of our co-chairs for the task force, is leading the charge on the developers. Doug Barrick, our other co-chair, is kind of looking at splitting his time between affordable housing and helping with the home consortium. But I would certainly appreciate any more board volunteers to help us with any of those 3 legs, because we certainly don't want to see this task force report just sit on the shelf. We want to see all this stuff move forward. So if anybody wishes to, or if you know anybody who you think would be a good asset to this task force, please send them our way. As discussed, the home consortium, we have started the process to move forward on that. The letter of intent was sent to HUD on March 1st. They have acknowledged that. The next step is I'm going to be putting together a large group of all the board members and our partners to kind of go over the home process and what's needed next. I will be sending an email out on Monday about this, so you will all be getting that on Monday. Our process is kind of this, as laid out in that slide that Sarah showed you. Our next 3 steps are: we need to get a state certification. We all need to work together on a consortium agreement, and we need to have a legal opinion that this is all well and good and will work. Ashley Wooten and McDowell County have tentatively volunteered to be our lead agency, with IPDC serving as the administrative entity for the home consortium. And so we will be working on all 3 of these aspects over the next couple months. Everything is due to HUD by June 30th. So over the next couple months, this will definitely be a large priority of mine and our folks here at IPDC is getting this up and running and moving. And so you'll be definitely seeing and hearing a lot from me about this. At the same time, we're going to make a new page on our website just for the Home Consortium, where I will put up all information related to this. I've got a nice little binder here going, but there's a lot of detail from HUD about the Home Consortium. So we'll make that all available for anybody to review on the website. And as I said, on Monday, I'll be sending out a meeting invite to all of you, our whole board, and our regional partners that should be participating in this, to have kind of a come together meeting that will lay out the whole process for the Home Consortium and what it means in the short run and in the long run. At that meeting, I'm going to have our counterpart from Southwest Commission come and join us. They're a year ahead of us on this process. They started it a year ago, so they'll be getting their first round of funding in July. That's kind of how this works. We do this process this year. We get everything into HUD by the end of June. They take their time in reviewing everything and coming back with any questions. And so that the end goal is for us to have this available funding as of July 1st of 2022. Based on the formula that HUD has for putting these home consortiums together, it looks like we have the ability to tap into about $800,000 on an annual basis that could go towards a variety of these projects that were on that slide that Sarah showed. So right now, that's kind of where things stand. This will be a main focus of mine and our team moving forward over the next few months. Happy to answer any questions now, and just want you all to be mindful that on Monday, you'll be getting that email from me about the big powwow about this.
Thank you, Steve. The executive director search, Bob Boyette's kind of led this up. Bob, Rick Howell, Jimmy Dancy, me, and Max Hopper have been involved. Bob, if you want to give a little rundown as to what we've done so far.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate all of the folks who are serving on the search committee. I had the pleasure of serving on the search committee 6 years ago when Scott was hired. Told the chairman, I guess we should have done a worse job, or I might not have been asked to be back on it, but I learned my lesson on that one. But we didn't receive a tremendous number of applications, but the quality of them were very good. We ended up so far with 11 applications. We held preliminary telephone interviews this past Friday with 5 candidates and have narrowed that down to 3 candidates. And we will be doing a follow-up interview and assessment process week after next. And look forward as soon as possible. Chairman Baisden has challenged us to try to conclude this process as soon as possible. And I guess we would be, Mr. Chairman, making a recommendation to the executive committee. I'm not sure process-wise how that would work, but we hope to have that wrapped up by early April and are very confident with the very high quality of the candidates that we will be interviewing week after next.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody have any announcements? Thank you, Sarah, for keeping all the electronic stuff going and switching around. If we don't have any announcements, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I'd like
sir.
to comment that the package was excellent for this meeting. I was particularly impressed with the Home Consortium presentation. Did an excellent job on that. It's one of the best I've seen. I look forward to seeing more presentations like that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Steve, I almost forgot to thank you and Thad for your portion of this and helping out. I know it's things that are moving on, and we have to grab a hold and keep it going.
for keeping the lights on and keeping things moving forward.
Great. All right. Then if we have nothing else, I would say we are adjourned.
Right.
Thank you very
all.
much.
We're looking at the next,
All in favor, click leave.
the next executive committee meeting is May 18th, and the next board meeting is June 15th.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.